Note that the tutorial video only demonstrates some operations. The specific operation should refer to the manual. Please keep the manual. First, I'll demonstrate the locking method of the buckle. The first is bending fixation. The icon in the manual is shown in the figure above, which is to fold the buckle 90 degrees and tighten it. The buckle and the part are in a fitting state, without protrusions. The second is twist fixation. The icon on the manual is shown in the figure above, is to turn the buckle 90 degrees. There will be a bulge. The third is curling fixation. The icon on the instruction manual is shown in the figure, is to clamp the end with pliers and rotate it 180 degrees. During the assembly process, the buckle locking method is specific to the instructions. I won't demonstrate it in detail later. Note that during installation, don't bend or force the holes too hard. Otherwise the metal will fatigue and it's easy to break. This product is made of 2 metal plates and 1 wooden plate. For bracket version, it adds 2 metal plates D and E and 1 wooden plate F. The bracket version needs to be purchased separately. Please note the plate and part numbers. If the parts are damaged, please use glue first. If it can't be bonded, please contact customer service for replacement. When attaching the metal plates, stick them along the middle. And don't let the metal sheet near the edge. To avoid handling the wooden board, use a utility knife to cut the wooden board. Use sandpaper to polish the connection point, to make the side smoother. The side with the part number is the front. Cut the part from the triangular connection point. Be sure to pay attention to the front and back during assembly. In the manual, the white transparent area is the front, and the gray fill is the reverse side. Let's start the tutorial. Find and cut out 11, A for 2. A 20 key. A for 2's front faces towards you. Fold it 90 degrees back along the dotted line to form a square. Install the side buckle into the other side's slot and lock. Unlock the buckle. Place the folded A for 2 in the corresponding slot on the front of A11. Unlock the buckle. A2's front faces you along the dotted line, folded according to the pattern shown in the manual. Note that the smooth side is the reverse side. Don't reverse the front and back sides. You can slightly fold it first and adjust the shape later. Avoid excessive folding to avoid key breakage. Install the folded A2 into the corresponding slot on the back of 11. Unlock the buckle to fix it. Find and cut part B11. A42. B11's back facing towards you. Insert it into the corresponding slot of A2 and lock it. A42 is facing yourself. Fold it 90 degrees backward along the dotted line to form a square. Install the side buckle in the other slot. Unlock the buckle. Put the folded A42 in the corresponding slot on the front of A19. Unlock the buckle. Install the A2 buckle on the corresponding slot on the back of the assembled A19. Unlock the buckle. Turn the back of A11 towards yourself. Fold it up 90 degrees along the dotted line. Install the slot on the A19 buckle. Unlock it. Find and cut A17. Install the A42 buckle on the reverse side of A17. Unlock the buckle. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the A17 clip and insert a 4mm white pearl. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the back of B11 and stick on 3mm white semicircular pearl patches. A total of 4. Apply glue to the corresponding positions on the back of B11 and A17 and stick on 3mm red patches. 3 in total. The other side is the same operation. After assembly and pasting, it looks like this. Apply glue to the back of B11 buckle and insert 3mm red beads. A total of 2. Insert 2mm white pearl beads into the buckle B11 and lock the buckle to fix a total of 2. Find and cut A14. A14's front faces towards you. Fold it 90 degrees back along the dotted line. Put the assembled buckle on the corresponding slot on the front of A14. And lock the buckle. Don't lock the bottom buckle. Find and cut A8, A35 parts. A35 faces you. and fold it back 90 degrees along the dotted line to form a square. Put the folded A35 in the corresponding slot of A8 and lock the buckle. Insert the 5mm magnet in the middle of A35. Install the assembled A14 on the corresponding slot on the front of A35 and lock the buckle. Find and cut off A6. A3, 1. A10 parts, A31 facing yourself. Bend it back and roll it into a circle. A6, facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward. To make it more vivid and three-dimensional, put the folded A31 buckle on the corresponding slot on the front of A6. Lock the buckle. Complete the same operation, T. Continue to pass the two assembled A31 clips through on the corresponding slot on the front of A10 and lock the buckle. A8 is facing yourself. Bend it slightly backward along the dotted line into an arc. Install the A14 buckle on the reverse side of A10 and lock the buckle. Find and cut A3. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the front of A3 and stick on a 3mm wide semicircular pearl patch. Install the other end of A14 on the corresponding slot on the back of A3 and lock the buckle. Find and cut A23. A23 facing yourself. Fold the other side of the buckle 90 degrees back. Install the A8 buckle on the reverse side of A23 and lock the buckle. Bend the A23 while installing it and lock the buckle to fix it. Install the folded buckle of A23 on the other slot and lock the buckle. Apply an appropriate amount of glue and insert 3mm 2 red millet beads. Find and cut A37, A32, A46, A360 pieces, A360 piece, A32 facing yourself. Bend it backward and roll it into a circle. A36 facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. A46 facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. Install the folded A3 buckle on the corresponding slot of A46. Without locking the buckle, continue to install the folded A32 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A36. Without locking the buckle, install the folded A32 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A37 and lock the buckle to fix the back of A37 facing you. Fold the buckle at 90 degrees. Install the assembled A37 into the corresponding slot of A23 and lock the buckle. Fix it. Find and cut the parts A55, A29, A49, and A51. A55's front faces you. Bend it backward and roll it into a circle. A51 facing itself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. A49 facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. Install the folded A55 buckle on the corresponding slot of A49. Without locking the buckle, install the folded A55 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A51. Without locking the buckle, install the folded A55 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A29 and lock the buckle. Fix A29 with the back facing you. Fold the buckle at 90 degrees. Install the assembled A29 in the corresponding slot of A23 and lock the buckle to fix it. Find and cut out parts A39, A43, A13, and A44. Place the front of A43 facing you. Bend it backward and roll it into a circle. A13's front faces you. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. A44 facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. Install the folded A43 buckle in the corresponding slot of A44. Without locking the buckle, continue to install the folded A43 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A13. Without locking the buckle, continue to install the folded A43 buckle. Continue to install it in the corresponding slot of A39 and lock the buckle. Fix A39 with the back facing you. Fold the buckle 90 degrees upward. A39 is facing itself. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the corresponding position and stick on 3mm wide semicircular pearl patches. Install the assembled A39 in the corresponding slot of A23, and lock the buckle. Fix it and find and cut A48, A52, A50, A50 parts. Place the front of a 48 facing yourself, bend it backward and roll it into a circle. A 52 facing itself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. A 50 front faces you. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. Install the folded 48 buckle on the corresponding slot on the front of A50. Don't lock the buckle. Install the folded 48 buckle on the corresponding slot of A52. Without locking the buckle, install the folded 48 buckle. Continue to install it in the corresponding slot on A50's front and lock the buckle. Fix A50 with the back facing you. Fold the buckle 90 degrees upward. A50's front facing yourself. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the corresponding position and stick on 3mm wide semicircular pearl patches. Install the assembled A50 in the corresponding slot of A23. And lock the buckle. Fix it in the corresponding position of A23. And stick on 3mm wide semicircular pearl patches. 2 in total. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the corresponding position of A23 and stick on 3x5 red oval patches. Find and cut out a 40 A15 parts. Place the front of a 40 facing you and fold it 90 degrees back along the dotted line to form a square. Install the assembled A40 in the A23 on the corresponding slot and lock the buckle. Put the A40 buckle on the reverse slot of A15 and lock the buckle. Find and cut out B3, A54, A53, A24 parts. Place the back of B3 facing yourself, bend it forward, and roll it into a circle. A 5/3 front faces towards you. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. A 5/4 facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. Install the folded B3 buckle on the corresponding slot on the front of A54. Without locking the buckle, install the folded B3 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A53. Without locking the buckle, continue to install the folded B3 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot and lock the buckle. Turn the reverse side of A24 towards yourself. Bend it slightly upward into an arc. Continue to face the back to yourself. Fold the buckle at 90 degrees. Install the folded A24 into the corresponding slot of A23. Without locking the buckle, detachable, find and cut off a 9 A38 parts. A38 facing yourself. Fold it back 90 degrees along the dotted line. Note that don't close it here. Put the folded A38 into the corresponding slot on A9 and lock the buckle. Fix it. Find and cut part of 31. A6. A 47 part, a 31 facing yourself. Bend it back and roll it into a circle. A47 facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. A6 facing yourself. Bend the pedal slightly upward to make it more vivid and three-dimensional. Install the folded A31 buckle on the corresponding slot on the front of A6. Without locking the buckle, install the folded A31 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A47. Don't lock the buckle. Install the folded A31 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A9 and lock the buckle. Continue to fold A38 along the dotted line. Install the side buckle in the other slot and lock the buckle. Find and cut off part B9 and A7. With the front facing towards you, fold the 4 flaps upwards. Install the buckle in the outermost slot and lock the buckle. Continue to install the assembled A3A buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of B9. Without locking the buckle, continue to install the assembled A38 buckle. Continue to install it on the corresponding slot of A7. Don't lock the buckle. Continue to install the assembled A38 buckle. Continue to install it in the corresponding slot and lock the buckle. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the red part of A15 and stick on a 3mm red patch. Insert 3mm red rice beads into the A15 clip and lock the clips, a total of 2. Find and cut off B12, B16, and B8 parts. Insert 3mm red rice beads into the B8 buckle. Unlock the buckle, a total of 2. On the B16 buckle, insert 3mm red rice beads in turn, and 2mm white beads. A total of 4 on the B16 buckle. Insert 3mm red rice beads in turn, and 2mm white beads. A total of 2. Hang the assembled B16 card slot on the corresponding opening. And close and fix the opening. Put the other assembled B16 on the corresponding opening on the other side, and close and fix the opening. Hang the B8 opening on the corresponding small ring, and close and fix the opening. Put the other assembled B8 on the corresponding opening on the other side, and close and fix the opening. Install the assembled B12 in the corresponding opening, and close and fix the opening. 1 on each side, a total of 2. Install the assembled B16 in the corresponding opening, and close and fix the opening. 1 on each side, a total of 2. The headwear part is assembled like this. Find and cut the parts A25, A45. Place the front of A25 facing yourself. Bend it down along the dotted line. Install the buckle on the side card slot and lock it. Fold the lower clip 90 degrees to the reverse side. Bend it and install it in the corresponding slot. And lock the buckle. Do the same on the other side. Bend it down along the dotted line. Install the buckle in the side slot and lock it. Fold the lower clip 90 degrees to the reverse side. Bend it and install it in the corresponding slot of the upper layer and lock the buckle. Turn the back of A45 towards yourself. Fold it up 90 degrees along the dotted line to form a square. Insert the 5mm magnets into the folded A25. Install the assembled A25 buckle on the corresponding slot on the front of A45 and lock the buckle. Find and cut out A33, A12, and B5 parts. A33's front faces towards you. Fold the side buckle back 90 degrees. Continue to bend it back to a circle. Put the folded side buckle onto the other side slot and lock the buckle. Fold the buckle 90 degrees to the front and straighten it. Install the folded A33 in the corresponding slot of A45 and lock the buckle. Put the folded A33 buckle on the reverse side of A12 and lock the buckle. B5 with the back facing you. Fold it up 90 degrees along the dotted line. Put the folded B5 in the corresponding slot of A25 and lock the buckle. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the white part of B5 and stick on a 3mm wide semicircular pearl patch. Find and cut out parts A41 and A22. Turn the front side of A41 towards you. Fold the side buckle 90 degrees backward. Continue to bend it into a circle facing forward. Put the folded buckle in the other slot and lock the buckle. Continue to face yourself. Fold the second layer buckle 90 degrees back. Bend the second layer into a circle. Install the folded buckle on the first layer, corresponding slot, and the second layer side card slot, and lock the buckle. A2 facing itself. Fold it back 90 degrees along the dotted line to form a square. Put the side buckle in the other side slot and lock the buckle. Install the folded A22 into the corresponding slot on the front of A41 and lock the buckle. Bend the upper clip of A21 slightly straight for subsequent installation. Install the assembled A41 in the corresponding slot on the back of A5 and lock the buckle. Find and cut off B14. A28, parts A18, install the B14 clip in the front slot of A28 and lock the buckle. Install the A28 buckle on the reverse side of A18 and lock the buckle. Continue to face the reverse side of A18 towards you. Fold it 90 degrees forward along the dotted line and lock the A28 buckle in the folded slot. Fix A18. Continue to fold and install it on the A28 buckle and lock it. Continue to fold along the dotted line. Install the slot on the other side of the buckle and lock the buckle. Install the assembled A18 in the corresponding slot of A33 and lock the buckle. Find and cut off B15. A30, A20. 21 parts, install B15 in the corresponding slot on A30. Unlock the buckle. Put a 30 on the reverse side of a 20's corresponding slot. Unlock the buckle. A 20's front faces towards you. Fold it 90 degrees back along the dotted line, and fasten the buckle of a 30 on the corresponding slot. Unlock the buckle. A 21 with the front facing you. And gently fold it up along the dotted line. Install the folded A21 in the corresponding slot of a 20. Unlock the buckle. You can adjust the shape while installing. Install the assembled A20 in the corresponding slot of a 33. Unlock the buckle. Find and cut out parts A5 and A26. Place the front of a 5 facing you. Fold the buckle 90 degrees backward, A33. Unlock the buckle in the corresponding slot of A5. Unlock the buckle. Install the folded A5 buckle in the corresponding slot of a 33. Unlock the buckle. Install the A20 buckle on the reverse side. Unlock it. Unlock the buckle. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the corresponding position of A26 and stick on a 3mm red semicircle patch. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the corresponding position and stick on a 3mm white semicircle pearl patch. Find and cut out parts B10, B2, and B70. B10's front faces you. Bend it up along the dotted line. And install the buckle in the other slot. Unlock it. Fix the buckle. Pass the B7 buckle through the front slot of B2. Without locking. Continue to pass the B7 buckle through the assembled B10. Unlock the buckle. Find and cut out parts A16, B13, and B4. Place a 16 with the front facing you. Fold it 90 degrees back along the dotted line to form a square. Install the side buckle in the other side slot. Unlock it. Fastening clip. Install the long clip of a 16 on the reverse side of B13. Don't lock the buckle. Install the long clip of a 16 on the corresponding slot. Without locking the buckle, find and cut off parts B1 and B6. Install the long clip of a 16 on the corresponding slot of B6. Without locking the buckle, install the A16 long buckle on the B1 reverse side. Don't lock the buckle. Find and cut off A1. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the corresponding position of A1 and stick on a 3mm red patch. Install the A16 long buckle on the reverse side of A4. Don't lock the buckle. Install the long clip of a 16 on the corresponding slot on the back of assembled B10. Unlock the buckle. Install the A16 long buckle on the reverse side. Unlock the buckle. Find and cut the A4 parts. Turn the back of a 3 towards yourself, along the dotted line and fold it up 90 degrees to form a square. Put a 5mm magnet into the folded A34. Install the folded A34 into the corresponding slot on the back of a 40. Unlock the buckle. Install the bottom buckle of a 4 on the corresponding slot on the front of A4. Unlock the buckle to fix it. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the top of the cat head and insert a 5mm magnet. And note that the poles of the magnets attract each other. Apply some glue to the lower end of the cat head and insert a 5mm magnet. And note that the poles of the magnets attract each other. Put the headgear on the cat's head. And put the cat head on the body. The finished cat head assembly looks like this. Find and cut off C2, 104 and C1, 103 parts. Insert the seat buckle into the C1 slot and clamp it. Insert the opening of C4 into the opening of C2 and insert the C4 buckle into the C1 slot to clamp. Insert the C4 and C2 clips into the C3 slot and fix. Apply an appropriate amount of glue to the middle hole of C3 and install a 5mm magnet. Make sure it attracts the magnet at the bottom. Don't install it backwards. Install the assembled cat head on the assembled bracket. The regular version is assembled like this. The tutorial for the purchased bracket. Find and cut E1. Find and cut down D13. E1's front faces towards you. Apply glue to the corresponding position and stick it on. They're out for D13. On the 13th, white part with glue and stick it on. For 3mm white semicircle pearl patches. Find and cut off 1, 2, 1 for parts. Find and cut off the 15th part, E9. Install E2 on the corresponding slot of E1 and fasten it. Install E4 into the corresponding slot on E1 and fasten it. Apply glue to the front of 1 and 2 and stick it on. Apply glue to the 15th and paste it. 3mm red semicircle patch. On 1, apply glue to the back of 1 2 and stick on the 9th. Apply glue to D9 and stick it on. 3mm red semicircle patch. Find and cut the 16th and 8th parts. Apply glue to the front of E4 and stick D8. Apply glue to D8 and stick on. 3mm red semicircle patch. Apply glue to the back of E4 and stick D16. And stick a 3mm red patch on D16. Find and cut the 18th, D2, and 11th parts. Hang the 11th on the small rings on both sides of D18. And close the opening to fix it. Hang the part 11 on both small rings of D2. And close the opening, 2 in total. Turn the second side to yourself. Fold the buckle up 90 degrees. Find and cut the 7th, 3rd, and 4th parts. The 3rd part is facing yourself. Fold the pedal slightly upwards. To make it more vivid and three-dimensional. The 4th one is facing yourself. Fold the pedal slightly upwards. To make it more vivid and three-dimensional. Pass the 2nd folded buckle through the back of the 7th part, and don't lock the buckle on the corresponding slot. The 2nd folded buckle continues to pass through the back of the 3rd, and don't lock the buckle on the corresponding slot. The 2nd folded buckle continues to pass through the back of the 4th corresponding slot and lock the buckle. Fix it. Apply some glue to the middle of the 4th one and stick it on. 3mm white semicircular pearl patch. Find and cut off F4, F3, F1, F2 parts. Insert the F3 card slot into the F for corresponding slot. Clamp and fix. Insert the F1 slot into the upper slot of F4. And clamp it. Insert the F2 card slot into the lower slot of F4. And clamp it. Apply glue to the sides of F4 and F3 and stick D2. On F4, apply glue to the other side of F3 and stick D18. Install the assembled F4 on the E slot, and fix it. Find and cut off E3. Install the F4 buckle on the corresponding slot of E3. Clamp and fix. Find and cut D17. Bend the D17 反面 towards you into a circle. Install the side buckle in the other slot. And lock it firmly. Turn the 17th side to yourself. Fold the clip up 90 degrees. Apply some glue to the side of E3. And stick the assembled 17th. Fold the middle buckle of the 17th part 90 degrees. Find and cut D14. Put a folded buckle of D17 on the back slot of D14. And lock it. 2 in total. Insert 2.5mm white pearls into the D17 clip. And lock the buckle. Apply glue to the 14th part. And stick on 3mm red patch. 2 in total. Find and cut part number 10. Part 10. Insert 2.5mm white pearls into D10. A total of 4. Install the assembled part 10 on the corresponding opening of D17. And close and fix the opening. 4 in total. Put D12 on the corresponding small ring of D17. And close and fix the opening, a total of 4. Find and cut D6. Bend the front of D6 slightly backward into an arc. Apply glue to the 6th buckle. And install it in the E slot. Apply glue to the E3 hole. And stick a 5mm magnet. Note that it attracts the bottom of the body. Put the assembled cat head on the assembled bracket. The assembled one looks like this.